Yesterday, some netizens left comments in the comments section asking me whether Donald Trump's demand for Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan to resign immediately due to his ties with China constitutes racist behavior. It is true that Trump harbors hostility toward Chinese people, as China is currently the primary adversary of the US. But this is more about America First populism than discrimination against Chinese individuals. Trump believes that Lip-Bu Tan served as CEO of Cadence Design Systems from 2008 to 2021 and stepped down as executive chairman in May 2023. In July 2025, Cadence admitted to exporting restricted chip design software to a Chinese military institute without authorization between 2019 and 2021, violating U.S. export control regulations, and agreed to pay over $140 million to settle the charges. Both Intel and Lip-Bu Tan have denied these allegations, and in fact, there is no evidence proving Lip-Bu Tan has financial ties with China. However, this is a matter of mutual accusations, and the sensitivity and severity of the issue far outweigh what racial bias could account for. In other words, if Trump's accusations against Lip-Bu Tan hold true, he would face imprisonment regardless of whether he is of Chinese descent. Undoubtedly, the U.S. government's suspicion of Chinese Americans far exceeds that of other ethnic groups. The root cause is that China is the only country in the world capable of threatening the U.S. We observe that the Soviet Union collapsed decades ago, yet the number of exceptionally talented Russian engineers in the U.S. tech industry remains strikingly low. Although Chinese Americans dominate the chip and AI industries, this is largely because Taiwan's TSMC and the East Asian chip industry cluster lead this sector, enabling more Chinese engineers to enter this high-tech field. In contrast, Indian Americans, who pose the least threat to the U.S., dominate half of Silicon Valley. Take Sundar Pichai and Satya Nadella as examples. These two control all high-level secrets at Google and Microsoft as CEOs. Yet Americans never worry about them betraying U.S. interests or transferring technology to India. This is because India's current technological and investment capabilities cannot produce products that threaten the U.S. However, Chinese companies like Huawei, TikTok, BYD, and DJI cause significant concern for Americans. TikTok, a product developed by Chinese creators, uses U.S. data storage services and employs American engineers and operations staff, but simply because its algorithm is not fully disclosed to the U.S. The government seeks to force its sale to American companies. This greed is largely driven by national-level competition. Trump does not trust Chinese Americans born in mainland China, nor does he trust Taiwanese, Malaysian, or Singaporean Chinese. The reason is simple. In Trump's view, all Chinese people serve the Chinese Communist Party without exception. Last year, a viral video of the U.S. Senate questioning TikTok CEO Shou Zi Chew gained widespread attention online. This Singaporean, who grew up in Singapore, served in the Singapore military, married an American wife, and has children with U.S. citizenship, was repeatedly questioned about whether he had joined the Chinese Communist Party, simply because he has a Chinese face. A foolish senator repeatedly asked about Chew's nationality, and when Chew answered that he is Singaporean, the senator still looked confused. Perhaps he believed Singapore is a city in China, like Hong Kong. This reflects the current state of American society. Chinese scientists and CEOs are not trusted. However, Trump also hesitates to trust Indians, as Indian CEOs have dominated Silicon Valley, and the U.S. tech hegemony has suffered devastating blows. The chips and AI that Americans take pride in rely entirely on Chinese talent. The so-called technology competition between China and the U.S. is essentially a contest between Chinese Americans and Chinese nationals. When NVIDIA's market value exceeded $4 trillion, setting a historical record, Trump felt deep anxiety. This tech giant, entirely nurtured by the U.S., is led by a Taiwanese CEO who, during a recent visit to China, casually remarked that he is first Chinese and later became a Chinese American, further heightening the nerves of U.S. politicians. These politicians are unaware of Taiwan's loyalty to the U.S., as at the very least, Taiwan's current government is unwaveringly loyal to the U.S. Trump demanded that TSMC invest $100 billion in the US, later increasing it to $300 billion. And under pressure, TSMC has begun transferring production lines to the US. Such actions hollow out Taiwan's economic foundation, sparking strong backlash from Taiwanese citizens. Yet, under these circumstances, Taiwan's government continues to unconditionally support the US, not daring to utter a single objection. As for Singapore, while it balances between China and the US, it relies entirely on the US and its allies militarily, making it one of the most loyal countries to the US globally. Even in Hong Kong, a territory of China, many Chinese people show strong enthusiasm for the US. However, Trump and his Make America Great Again supporters are wielding a big stick, awakening these people and pushing them toward China. Take Taiwan as an example. The US government imposes high tariffs on Taiwan, demands that it open its agricultural market, purchase US energy and weapons, and relocate TSMC to the US. Such actions could paralyze Taiwan's economy and cause widespread hardship. Taiwanese people were once highly antagonistic toward the Chinese Communist Party, but under this pressure, they increasingly feel that mainland China treats them as compatriots, while Americans treat them as guard dogs without providing sustenance. Their sentiments may shift. When they visit mainland China and see towering skyscrapers, extensive high-speed rail and airport networks, vast territories, the simple folk customs, they may develop a sense of cultural resonance. The approval rating of Taiwan's current authorities has fallen below 40%, and the next election could very well be the last for pro-independence forces. All of this is thanks to the actions of the US. Whether Taiwan is worth cherishing will only become clear to Americans after it is lost. Regarding Singapore, it pays substantial protection fees to the US and positions itself as the most reliable military ally in Southeast Asia. If the US grants Singapore enough space to launder money, smuggle chips, and earn a living, Singapore will undoubtedly maintain friendly relations with the US. However, if the US denies Singapore room to survive, it has other options, as the Chinese government can also offer substantial tangible benefits. The world's most outstanding talent today is Chinese, and their numbers are limited. If the US does not utilize them, they will turn to China. Perhaps Trump should seriously consider why Intel relies on a Chinese person to turn it around, why TSMC is needed to help Intel improve its processes, and why it is not Japanese, Koreans, Europeans, or Indians doing this. The reason is simple. The world's best chip and AI talent are Chinese. Treating them well and trusting them is the right path. China's technological strength today owes much to Chinese Americans, but even more to those who relinquished US citizenship and returned to China to start businesses. As long as the US provides a safe employment environment, Jensen Huang, Lisa Su, or Lip Bu Tin would be willing to build their careers in the US, as the US still holds many advantages over China. It is the 21st century. Do not resort to McCarthyism. China is not the Soviet Union, but a far more formidable adversary, and the US has little room for error in technology. Cherish these Chinese individuals serving the US, or try handing the chip and AI industries to Indians and see the results.